Good Friday morning, friends. Welcome back for another episode of the Finding God in the Dark podcast. My name is Don,
And my name is Jonathan.
and today we are looking at the 1951 version of A Christmas Carol, which I think the film was actually called Scrooge.
In England, it was released as Scrooge, and then in America, it was released as A Christmas Carol. That's
Okay,
the reason.
starring that gentleman over Jonathan's shoulder there,
Alistair
Alistair
Baggs,
Sim.
which I didn't know was a well-known British theater actor at the time. So,
Yeah. Now, look, we all know this story. We have seen this story in many, many different iterations of this
yeah,
story. This would, in the grand scheme of things, not my favorite version of this,
yeah,
but I did enjoy it.
Mhm.
It was good.
Yeah, yeah,
There were some things in here that I have not seen in others. Now, to be
yeah.
fair, I don't know if they go back to the original
The book.
Dickens story or
Yeah,
not,
yeah, yeah.
but it was an interesting watch for
Yeah.
for a 1951 film. And I this is a complete aside to our discussion of this film in particular, but
Yeah.
um I'm discovering for myself that I'm probably not as big of a movie fan as I thought I was.
Oh,
Well, not that I'm not a fan,
yeah.
but that I wasn't a fan of film.
Mm,
I think I was more a fan of spectacle
mm,
and pop culture
yeah.
than film. Because as we've watched a lot of these older films, I'm going, man, why have I missed these great movies all these
Mm,
years?
yeah.
This one included. Of course, It's a Wonderful Life I knew about, but some of the other ones that we've watched, just like great old films that I didn't sit and watch before and call myself a movie nerd, and I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, I really the Seven Samurais has made me really interested in jumping into Kurosawa. I had
Yeah.
avoided him because I have a learning disability, and so reading text on the screen is not easy for me.
Hmm.
But that movie really impressed me, and I'm curious to watch other of his others films.
Yeah. So we're both getting we're
Yeah,
turning what we thought was a tool to teach other folks about
yes,
films into a learning experience for ourselves. Go figure.
yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about this one. Where do you want to start, John?
Two things popped out at me, and I probably will not read the Dickens short story, but I'm kind of curious. In this movie, he has in the present, he has he has an image of the woman that he loved that he let go, and they don't swing back around to deal with that at the end. But it makes me wonder because that's also in Scrooged, where the Bill Murray comedy, kind of a riff on this. In that comedy, he connects back with the girlfriend that he lost. It makes me wonder if that's part of the short story that has been cut out of a lot of tellings of it because this is an added piece they have to film.
Well, that storyline is partially in the Muppets version,
Yeah,
right? There is a love interest when he's a young man, but
yeah,
that doesn't come back around in the end.
yeah.
So I don't know. I
Well,
again,
the
there were
love
things.
interest in him letting
Yes.
him go, I've seen in every film that
Mhm.
I've seen, but I never saw him seeing her in the present. And this movie, he sees her also in the present, which makes me wonder if maybe in the short story he reconnects with her too, like he does with everybody else that he sees in the present. He does a kind of a healing piece with in the when he wakes up, and it makes me
Mhm.
wonder if that's in the story as well. Just interesting.
Yeah, or is it that, the reconciliation part, is that a Hollywood add-on?
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know either. Interesting. What else?
Um, I thought it was. I don't know if you. I felt like this was one of the most Christian, like kind of embracing of these stories
Hmm.
in film that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like he specifically talks about. I can't remember. I'll go down to the quote. but he says, let's see what it is. He talks about a golden idol, which is clearly a biblical reference. And
Right.
then he talks about men are called to seek Jesus in their hearts. I've never heard that line in any other Christmas. It makes sense that it would have been in the Dickens one, but I've never seen it in a movie. And as pastors reflecting on film, it was interesting to think about this kind of deeper, because usually you get in these films, Christmas is about kindness. And it's like, no,
No. Right.
no.
No, you're selling it short if it's
Yeah.
just about kindness. Yeah.
Um, and I like that element of, we believe, right, that people can have a heartwarming experience, as John Wesley would put it, have a kind of a transition, have a salvific moment. And in this film, they embrace the idea that he has a salvific moment. He realizes he is supposed to seek Christ, and
Yeah.
seeking Christ should change how he lives his life. And I'm like, yes, that's what we believe. So
Not just be a good guy for the sake of being a good guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
you're a good
which
guy
you're right.
because God God was gracious and loving to you, and so you're supposed to be gracious and loving to other people because of that gift God gave you. Yeah.
And it really is. You'd have to think with a lot of the way we've heard the story in the past
Yeah.
that they missed that
Yeah.
we worship a God of second chances. I've said this in sermons any number of times. So
Yeah.
we worship a God of second chances. That is what Christ's incarnation is all about.
Yeah.
It's a second chance.
Well,
This
that's why
story is very much a second chance.
yeah, to me this is a very tongue in cheek, I'll say this, but I think there's some truth to it. It's a very Wesleyan film. You know,
Okay.
it is
Draw that out for me.
it is about free will. Free will is mentioned several times about the choices we're called to make and how we're called to respond to God's graciousness. And so the idea of free will is throughout the film, the idea that his choice matters, and this idea, granted it's more than just Wesleyan, I would argue you can find it through a good chunk of Christianity, period. But this idea that yes, God is the one who saves us, but we're called to cooperate and embrace that gift and be changed by it. So we have a responsibility to allow that gift to change us and to cooperate with that grace. And to me, that's very Wesleyan. And I felt like throughout the movie, he's called to cooperate with the grace God, you assume God is giving him a second chance, a chance to freely choose to do the good and to embrace Jesus. And to me, that's very evangelical. It's very Wesleyan. And, granted, Wesleyan is this idea, Wesley attempted to take high church tradition and meld it with evangelical call for repentance. And that's kind of where Wesley wanted to be. And I feel like that part of repentance and you're called to participate with God's grace in that transformation is very much a part of this film.
Yeah. And for sure, the film is a product of its age, right? 1951.
Yes.
Okay. It's 13 years older than I am.
Yeah. It's 25 years old, about 25 years older than I am.
So it is a product of its time in that respect. That
Yeah.
that is certainly at that era was
Yeah.
a much more profoundly Christian
Yes.
era. But it does beg the question, was this part of Dickens' original intention with film, or was it again an add-on for the age, for the
Yeah.
time? Not certain. Um, what else there was? I mean, there's so many things in this film that, like, even the dialogue. Like, I've never seen this version,
Yeah.
but I knew the dialogue.
Yeah.
You know, like somebody would say something and I would say, what was it? The first spirit came, I've come for your welfare. Well, my welfare would be served by a full night's sleep.
Yeah.
Like I knew the lines, even though I
Yeah.
had not seen the film. So the lines are probably lifted directly from Dickens, but
Yes.
um so a lot of the themes you could apply a lot of these themes to a lot of versions of this
Yeah.
story, right?
And I am aware that again in this movie there in the text Dickens had deep critiques of the excesses of the industrial age and the
Yes.
industrial revolution and how people were being kind of ground down in that process. And so I know he does reference at the beginning, you see it in the film, but it's also, I know it's in the text, but he's concerned about the tendency in England at the time, if people had debt, to either throw them in prison or force them to work in kind of basically halfway houses. And he mentions both of them in the movie about Scrooge. Basically, they people come to Scrooge and go, "Hey, we'd like to help the poor. Would you help us?" And he's like, "Are the prison and the workhouses closed?"
The
Like,
prisons?
yeah,
No workhouses?
yeah,
Of course. Well, people would rather die than go there.
yeah,
Well, then let them die and
yeah,
decrease the surplus population. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, but
And I do think that especially in a country that's very shaped by capitalism, we need to recognize that we're also called to critique the excesses of it and the fact that capitalism unchecked has a tendency to see people just as wedges and material to use to make profit.
yes.
And
Yeah.
we need to fight against that tendency. We need to say, look, yes, we understand making money is important. We understand that, growth in the economy is important, but people are valuable in and of themselves, and you need to treat them well, and you need to help your workers, not just use your workers.
Yeah, well, I think we could say this about any non-Christian ideology is going to dehumanize people, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
Um, so and that's the nice thing about this film. It is very, very steeped in Christian ideology.
Yeah.
The what did I want to say? I, I I don't know. I make a lot of comparisons with this one with other versions that
Mhm.
I'm much more familiar with. So my wife can't go at Christmas without watching I think it's 1971 version with Albert Finney that's a musical.
Okay.
Um, I'm if I had to pick a favorite version of Christmas Carol, I'm my dork side comes out and it's the Muppet Christmas Carol.
I feel bad. I've never seen that one.
Really? Because it's so much fun. It's
Okay.
a Michael Caine plays
Yeah,
Scrooge,
I knew
and it's
that.
a musical.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
it's just fun.
yeah.
But anyway, it, like I said, I think these themes apply,
Mhm.
except that very one you brought up. That that this one seems so much more steeped in Christian ideology
Yeah,
than any other. I love that you mentioned the idea of the capitalism, and there's this whole angle in this film that I have not seen in any other version, where Scrooge and Marley, as young men
yeah,
who are apprentices for Fezziwig,
yeah,
end up taking over his business.
yeah,
They go off and work for somebody else and make their
yeah,
fortune and then buy Fezziwig's business out from under him.
yeah, yeah.
Which I have not seen that in any other version of this story.
And they're firing all the employees, and one of the employees begs to stay on, and Scrooge says to him, "How much do you make an hour?" And the guy goes, "Five, whatever." And he goes, "You can come back for four."
Right. Five shillings a week.
Yeah,
You can come
yeah,
back for four.
yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, to me, and I mean, a huge part of Dickens' work is a critique of the excesses of the Industrial Revolution. He's really critical of where England is going without, he feels like, without thought about people.
Hmm.
And I don't know, that's to me, that is something that in a very consumeristic culture, we have to be one of the things that I feel like the church is called to do is to keep asking people to push on the brakes and think about this. Like, you know, think about people. Think, it's great, like it on some level is amazing that in China there can be dark factories where there's almost no staff and it's all run by robots. But that means hundreds of people no longer have jobs. What are you going to do with those hundreds of people?
And it's interesting that, you're bringing up Dickens'
Yeah.
interest in the Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution makes this story very contextual.
Mhm.
But the thing that has made it timeless really is that that context was taken out of it,
Yeah.
right? Because you really don't see that angle in most modern retellings of this story. There's not
No.
that whole angle about the Industrial Revolution and
Yeah.
what it meant for people.
Yeah. You really focus on, in most retellings, you focus on Scrooge and you don't have a wide lens about the reality that Scrooge is a product of his culture, which we
Right.
all are, right?
Hmm.
You know, and yet in this movie they do a better job of kind of pulling out and showing you Scrooge was shaped by this culture that has a tendency to view people as not important.
Right. And it gives you see in most other retellings, most other versions of this story, Scrooge is just this cranky old man.
Yeah,
But here at least you're seeing his original motivations,
yeah,
right? It's not just a love of money,
yeah,
but it is, as you say, being a product of his society, being, someone who's trying to get ahead
yeah,
in a world that crushes people.
yeah,
Well, yeah, good, good stuff.
yeah.
What else jumped up for you?
Um, I liked the ending line or one of the ending lines where it says, "I don't deserve to be happy, but I can't help it." And to me, one of the things I feel like I struggle with sometimes in my context as a pastor is I will come across people that can't accept the idea that God really loves them or God forgives them or they deserve, that they deserve to embrace it.
Hmm.
And that kind of spoke to me that like um I guess I'd push back against Ebenezer Scrooge and I'd say you deserve to be happy. The problem was you were attempting to benefit yourself at the expense of other people's well-being and happiness. Like
Yeah.
you need to find a balance here.
You're putting what made you happy in the wrong place, right?
Yeah.
You're putting it in the wrong things,
Well,
or you're putting it in
yeah,
things instead of people.
yeah, and I think to me one of the reasons why I resonated. I did not grow up Methodist. I in seminary kind of went for a search because I had been raised Baptist and that didn't seem to work. Had I hadn't been exposed to kind of more mainstream understandings of baptism or Baptist reality, maybe if I had, I would have stayed in that family. But all I understood of baptism was fundamentalism, and that didn't work for me anymore. And
Hmm.
when I went into seminary, I was technically Presbyterian, and I was introduced to John Calvin, major person in kind of the shaping of Reformed theology. And John and I just don't get along. Love him. Think I think he's I think he is in the presence of God. I don't want to question any of that, but I just don't agree with his theology. And so I had to kind of look in seminary, and I really resonated with Wesleyan theology, this idea. And to me, one of the beautiful things about this story, and one of the things that I think makes it a classic and probably why it still resonates, is it's a story about the hope and belief that people can really change, that a person can really become different. He says, "I'm not the man I was." And in a cynical world where we have a tendency to believe and be told that you are who you are and people don't change, the gospel rests, I think, upon this radical idea that no, God can change people. People can become different. People can become compassionate. People can become holy. People can become forgiving. Like people
I
can
mean,
become
look,
those things.
in reality,
Yeah,
some of the best stories,
yeah,
Christian or not,
yeah,
are stories of transformation, right?
yeah,
Some of the best films. Look, I, all right, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag on something here.
yeah.
One of my really kind of all-time favorite films is an animated film.
Okay,
That's not a surprise,
okay.
but it's I think it's a company ImageWorks, DreamWorks.
Yeah,
It's the first Despicable Me movie.
okay, yeah,
Okay. And for those who have never seen it, it is a film about this guy who's a bad guy. And in order to pull off this plot to beat another bad guy, he adopts three little girls.
yeah,
And those three little girls change him.
yeah, yeah,
He becomes, by the end of the film, a good guy,
yeah,
the good guy. You know what I mean? And to me, it's stories like that. Yeah, okay, it's a cartoon, it's computer animated, it's goofy and it's funny. But there's at its very core, like A Christmas Carol, there is this story of transformation
yeah,
that, man, we all need to hear.
yeah,
We all need to hear, I think, more regularly than we do.
yeah,
It's the thing that we resonate with is that, even if I am the bad guy, that there's still a chance to be the good guy,
yeah,
to be the person that people look up to, that people admire, that that makes a difference in the world. And I think that's maybe I'm a little presumptuous. I'm going to speak for a lot of clergy, but I think that's why a lot of us get into it
yeah,
is because we have at our core this desire to make a difference in the world for other
yeah,
people. And I mean, we can. Some look, we're honest, right?
mhm,
Some get into this profession for all the wrong reasons,
yes,
and do some terrible things
yeah,
because their motivation was not where it should be,
yeah,
particularly for this profession.
yeah,
But I think we can extend that out to the church too.
sure,
People don't just come to church because we put on a good show. You can get a much better show in an awful lot of places
yeah,
than the church.
mhm,
People come to church because they're looking to make a difference in their own lives and in the lives of the people around them.
yeah,
And if we're not, I'm getting on a soapbox now. If we as the pastors are not equipping our people
yeah.
to do that, we're not doing our job.
Yeah. I mean, in the Eastern Church, it's known as theosis. In Methodism, it's talked about as being perfected in love in this lifetime.
Right.
I tell my people that, which is true, when you go to ordain, one of the things you're supposed to respond to is a question: do you expect to be perfected in love in this lifetime? And your answer is yes, with God's help. And I tell people, I think all Methodists should have to say that because it's this idea that, again, we can be changed. We can become better than we are. We can become more like Christ every day. And we're called to be on that journey. We're called to strive for that. We're called to work with God in changing us. And I like movies that remind us that change is possible. Yeah.
It's interesting that this discussion of this very classic film has turned into a sermon.
Have you ever seen the movie The Man Who Invented Christmas?
No, I have not. I've heard
It's
this
actually
on
about
Netflix,
Dick.
right?
It's about Dickens writing this
Okay.
and kind of a supposition of all that was happening in his life and kind of what drove him to write this.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I think this in a lot of ways was a sermon for him. He was trying to kind of project where he hoped people would grow and become. Yeah.
And you know what? I something that occurred to me in watching this and really, reading over your list of points you sent me and all, is that we have lost so much in our current culture of this kind of storytelling,
Yeah,
this kind of, like depth of storytelling, this depth of meaning
yeah,
in a film.
mhm,
Um, and we've lost it to, big explosions and computer graphics,
yeah,
which is not a great trade-off. Look, I like a big action movie. I'm a fan,
yeah,
but for me, that's something I'm going to go for 2 hours and turn my brain off and eat a bucket of popcorn.
yeah.
And I don't want to do that all the time. I think when we do that all the time, we have a problem turning our brain back on again.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, I agree with you. There's sometimes where it's just fun to go to a movie and see things explode and see really cool shots. But I think film is also a art form that's supposed to also leave you with questions and thoughts and kind of leave you pondering where you are, where society is. And
Challenge you a little bit.
those things are part of the art form too. And I think they don't make as much money, and we are really in a time, especially to me, kind of as much as I'm a member of Netflix. I will probably be a member of Netflix as long as Netflix exists. But it worries me that they might buy Warner Brothers, and one of the big tentpole theater companies could become a thing of Netflix, which I would guess over time will just be because Netflix has never had a real interest in putting movies out into the theaters. It's always been about being at home. And I
Yeah.
do I do worry about the communal experience of coming to a place and sitting with 20, 50 other people and kind of having a movie that scares you or moves you to tears and having that experience together as a communal thing that then you can go talk about. And I don't want to lose that because I do think movies are really one of the most profound communal art forms and conversational pieces we have left.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I think one of the last films to really do that well was The Sixth Sense.
Hmm.
So many people, all of us went into that film. We went and saw it in theaters. I saw it in a packed theater.
Yeah, I did too.
And, when okay, spoiler alert if you
Yeah,
honestly haven't seen Sixth Sense
it's
yet,
like a
but
20-year-old movie, so yeah.
yeah, when her hand opened and his wedding ring fell out and rolled across the floor towards the end of the film, and we all went, he's been dead. I mean, the whole audience gasped,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like that was a moment.
yeah,
Films, what most films, and again, soapbox, what so many films are doing nowadays are trying to capture that moment and repeat it 45 times in one film.
yeah,
No, the
yeah,
reason it was effective was because it built to it. Te-
yeah,
I'm going to say it again, tell a good story.
yeah.
And this is a good story. And the thing for me is there was so much more to it in this version than I have seen in any other version I've ever seen.
Yeah.
As much as I love the Muppet Christmas Carol, or my wife loves Scrooge the musical, or whatever your favorite version is, I don't think this one feels like it was so much closer to the original text and the original intention of Dickens
Oh,
that we've lost something,
yeah.
along the
I
way.
do think we've treated Scrooge as a person in a vacuum instead of struggling with the fact he, in his wickedness and his greed, that comes from a wider conversation about the community and the society.
Right. Right. And we're all a product of our environment. We're all a product of our context.
Yeah.
And when we take away the context, then the story starts to become soulless, right?
Yeah, and I thought they did a good job. I've seen it in other places, and I really think it's probably part of the story where they steal from him after he's dead. But I felt like in this movie they really prolonged that to kind of set with that and to recognize that, all of these people were seeing him just as a commodity too. It was a
Right.
wider problem, right?
Right. Right. Well, friends, we are getting close to time on
Okay.
this film. Look, if you haven't seen this one, and look, I'm admit it's possible you haven't. I hadn't seen it before. John, you hadn't seen this one before, have you?
No, I hadn't. No.
Okay, so we're both on that boat. Like, but
Yeah.
this is worth taking a look at.
Yeah.
It was a rental on
Okay.
Amazon Prime, but it was on sale as a rental, so it was under $3.
Actually, mine was free, so
There you go. See,
yeah.
so move near Jonathan, and
Yeah, there you go.
anyway. So honestly, I mean, you know the story, but think a little deeper. I think is what we're going to encourage you every week.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
when you see this, any version of this,
Yeah.
why is he how he is? What is the context that maybe they're not telling you?
Yeah.
And that's worth asking in all of our relationships. And I'm going to leave it right there as we move on to another film.
Absolutely.
So, um, I have one.
Okay.
It's on I think it's on Amazon Prime. I know it's available as a stream. White Christmas.
Okay.
It's not black and white, but it is old.
I was gonna say that doesn't fit your parameters.
No, no, it's old. Who's like Bing Crosby's in it? And
Yeah.
so I have seen it before. And I think I did a review on it 5 years ago or something. Um, I won't go back and cheat and look at what I said before, but
Sounds good.
I know it's a fun and it's a classic.
Yes, it
It
is.
is absolutely a Christmas classic. Um, so this week we'll watch White Christmas, and we will talk about it next week. Now, as you are seeing this, this is going to publish on December 12th. So White Christmas will be discussion on the 19th,
Mm.
which is when we will have to sort out how we're going to record for the following week, which is Christmas.
Yeah.
So,
I say we do it on Christmas. You and me, buddy.
you know, if we do it early enough in the morning, we won't have even opened any presents yet. So, because
Or
my kids are all
both
teenagers
of
and
our
up.
kids are old enough that
Yeah.
we don't have to get up at 5 in the morning anymore.
I never did, but that was because we wouldn't allow it, not in my house, but that's a different story. All right, friends. Until next week when we will discuss White Christmas, keep on finding God in the dark. We will see you all next week.
Bye.
Oh, hey, you made it all the way to the end of the video. Well, thanks for watching. We appreciate your support. And friends, if you find anything that's really wonderful or entertaining or helpful in your Christian walk, we want to encourage you to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share this video with your friends. We publish every Friday morning at 10 a.m. And we hope that you continue to find these videos and these discussions entertaining and informative. Take care and God bless. Bye.